Hey, this is Warren Redlick. I am really excited. Thank you so much for coming today. We are going to talk about Elon's tweets of the week. We're going to talk about Monkey Pong. We're going to talk about Tesla. We're going to talk about the new profit model and so much more. Thank you so much for coming. A special shout out to the moderators, Carl, Mark, and Jim for helping out with the live chat. Check out the live chat if you're interested in that. We're going to get into a lot of stuff first, but I want to start with, and I have to cheat and use my glasses now. I want to start with Pixar. I love this little clip that somebody did. Astro Brew. Check it out. This is just a fun play on the old Pixar clip. So Elon liked it. I like it. Hey, it blows up. This is fun stuff. So good news there. A lot of great stuff going on. I'm really excited about my new t-shirt. I just got this in the mail yesterday. It's Elon time. And while we're on it, I also just created the Team Elon shirt. These are on, there's links below in the video. There's links in the video description to check out the t-shirts. Also, really quick, I want to thank the Vasa law firm in Sweden and all my Patreon supporters for helping this channel grow. My Patreon supporters get early access to some videos, including the profit model videos I'm going to talk about later. They also get access to the spreadsheets that I use to build the model. If you're a YouTube exclusive content channel member, just email me. I'll send them to you as well. And Patreon supporters also get t-shirt discounts. If you don't see them, let me know. T-shirt discounts like Elon time. This is my own art. I'm actually an artist now. The time is 4:20, of course. If you look at the clock, the time is 4:20. So let's move on. Some really cool stuff with the Boring Company. Before we get into everything else, I want to talk about the Boring Company. They just had an event in Las Vegas where they invited media, and here's a couple of quick videos about that.
It's Las Vegas. This is also a thrill ride.
This is a CNBC
The
reporter
Las Vegas
from
Convention
Shepard
Center
Smith.
loop is part thrill ride, part light and sound show, but mostly just a
showing off
commute
some
across a
features of the
sprawling
tunnel.
convention center.
And then there's this one.
The system operates like
this is
an
really
Uber
interesting.
or a Lyft, where you have an app on your phone. You say, I'm here, I want to go there. Car comes up, has an identifier on it that matches with what is on the app on your phone.
Okay, what was really interesting about that? He compared it to Uber. So, number one, I see the robo-taxi network that's coming as massive, massive competition for Uber. So that's a big deal there. But also that detail that you have an app and you request it, and when the vehicle arrives, it makes sure you're the one who's supposed to get that ride. There's been stories about people getting in the wrong vehicle thinking it was an Uber. We actually had an incident not that long ago here in Boca Raton where a woman was waiting for an Uber. She was outside the Denny's restaurant, and this vehicle comes up, and for some reason she thought it was her Uber. She gets in and realizes it was the wrong person, and this guy takes her for a drive. Unfortunately, no one got hurt. At some point, she figured out, wait a minute, this isn't my Uber. So these kinds of things happen, and that's a little bit extra protection. If your phone knows, no, that's not the car. And if the car knows, no, you're not my ride. That's another little interesting feature that we should all be excited about. And the last clip.
Look, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, D.C. to Baltimore. Hey, Los Angeles to Las Vegas. That's a 4-hour-plus drive that stretches into a 9-hour parking lot on some days. All of this is under consideration for a loop. In Las Vegas, more than 40 destinations have raised their hand saying, yep, we want a station, we'll build it. They're thinking, if you build it, they will come.
So just a lot of good news. That story, I didn't include everything in that story, and there's a lot of stories going on here, but it's pretty clear that this is expected to expand in Las Vegas to a lot of the city. And you caught details about, well, what about Las Vegas to Los Angeles? That sometimes ends up being a 9-hour trip. You do that at 150 miles an hour in a loop tunnel, it's going to be a lot quicker, a lot more convenient. So there's a lot of potential for the Boring Company combined with Tesla, not necessarily with Tesla, but combined with Tesla to make life better for a lot of people in a lot of ways. Very, very exciting about that. So I meant to create a, by the way, if you're watching this later, this outline here is you'll be able to see where we are from the outline as to where we're going. I want to welcome you to the channel, welcome you to the live stream. We're going to go through the topics you see here, and let's move on to the next topic. As you can see how it goes, we go to Elon Tweets. So it starts with, Elon tweeted this just a couple days ago. maybe it was yesterday, going to moon very soon. What did he mean by that? A lot of people speculating. I did a poll on Twitter about it. No one's really sure what that means. Maybe he's just goofing around. Maybe he's working on a song. Maybe Starship is going to the moon soon. Maybe Tesla stock is going up. Maybe Bitcoin or Dogecoin. No one knows. Typical cryptic Elon tweet. Here's another one. Blimps rock. Why is he talking about blimps? Is there some helium project in the work? Did he just think it was cool? Elon loves to do cryptic tweets, so I love to enjoy them. And every week I sort of go through, when I'm trying to figure out what news to cover at the beginning of the live stream, I look at Elon's tweets to get a sense of where to go. So this is kind of interesting. Kathy Wood did a video yesterday. Kathy Wood is the head of ARK Invest. I am an investor in ARK Invest. I own stock in ARK Invest. I own stock in Tesla. I own stock in Amazon, other stocks. So Kathy Wood had a video yesterday, which I recommend. Check out the ARK Invest channel. She was talking about inflation on that channel. Here in this tweet thread, not right here, but she's been talking about inflation and deflation a bit. And there was this mention of comparing market cap to GDP, which I see a lot in my videos when I do models and I'll say Tesla's market cap could go to this. People say, well, that's bigger than US GDP. And I don't agree that that's an appropriate comparison. I like Shrubbery Capital here said a more accurate metric would be world market cap to GDP. And Elon says, trust the shrub, which I thought was kind of cute. But I actually think this is not the way to think about things. Market cap does not map to GDP. Market cap is a measure of wealth or total value. It is not a measure of income or revenue or profit. GDP is more appropriately mapped to a company's profit or maybe revenue than it is to market cap, which maps more to wealth. So I don't think any of these are correct. I did think it was cute. And I do, again, recommend watching Kathy Wood's ARK Invest video, which is the last video I think the channel did. So look for the ARK Invest channel on YouTube. This was also kind of interesting. Being a Starship fan, Elon tweeted about, he's been tweeting about this, that when Starship lands, they're thinking about setting it up so that, this is for Super Heavy, that when Super Heavy comes down, the tower is actually going to catch it as it's landing. And apparently it's going to have some giant robotic arms that are going to catch the rocket. Have no idea how this is going to work. There's a lot of people speculating how it's going to work. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this happen. Maybe the blimp comes into play. Maybe they're going to use a blimp to help catch it. Who knows? Very, very interesting. And there's a video. I got a video. Wait. There's a video that somebody came up with, which I thought was really cool. I don't think it's going to look like this. Julius Burton, nice video. Watch the hand. Watch the hand. Good boy. Good boy. Very, very cute. Probably not going to be like that, but very, very interesting. So another key detail, and this relates to Tesla, which we're going to talk about more in a minute, but I wanted to cover this now. Elon talked about changing. FSD beta is coming. Version 9 is coming. Big improvement, massive improvement, covers a lot of weird corner cases, bad weather, and this is a key detail, pure vision, no radar. If you're familiar with FSD, FSD uses radar. Current versions of autopilot and FSD, what Tesla is using now, they use autopilot, they use cameras to visualize the world, but they also use radar, which sometimes people think can be helpful to see ahead in certain circumstances like fog or seeing vehicles more than one ahead of you. So Owen Sparks, who's a regular follower, asked, does that mean they're going to remove radar from production? And Elon said they're going to remove it. Adam Klotz said the best part is no part. There's a t-shirt on the channel. There's a t-shirt on elonbits.com. The best part is no part. The best process is no process. And Elon said yes. So they're going to not only not use the radar, they're actually going to take it out of the car. I think people underestimate the value of this for manufacturing. It's one less part. It's probably more than one less part. It's removing processes, which means they can make vehicles for a lower cost and make them faster so they can produce in higher volume. All of this is really, really important. And there's this ongoing discussion about, well, does this make sense? And Elon explained, when radar and vision disagree, which one do you believe? And vision has much more precision. So it's better to double down on vision than to try to meld vision with radar. The sensors are bitstream and the cameras have several more orders of magnitude, more bits per second than radar. There's just a lot of higher resolution in vision. And radar is not worth the complexity of integrating it, because the signal is not that clear. There's a problem with signal to noise ratio in its bit stream. It just wasn't adding that much value. If it's adding any value at all, increases costs, increases problems, and Tesla has concluded we don't need radar. And there's one more tweet in this series to think about this as probabilities and recognize that there are 5 forward-facing cameras, so it's highly likely that at least one of them will see what's going on ahead that radar might have seen instead. It was really kind of surprising to hear 5 forward-facing cameras. I thought there were 3. Apparently there's 5. I think that's when you're including ones that are on the side looking sort of off a little bit. Very, very interesting stuff. So that was that. And the last tweet, this is something I've been talking about with Starlink, and others have been talking about, that the production cost for the Starlink antenna that you get at home is high. It's an expensive device to make. I've seen numbers as high as $2,400 or even $3,000 for SpaceX to produce the Starlink device, the Dishy McFlatface, as I think Jessica Kirsch calls it. So Elon is said they're getting the cost down. I expected this. As I understand it, it's basically a phased array radar antenna, which is the dish on the top, and then it also includes a Wi-Fi router. And the Wi-Fi router component is probably costing SpaceX less than $100, maybe even less than $50. That phased array radar antenna is the expensive component. And anyone who knows Elon and knows his companies knows they're going to work on manufacturing more efficiently and getting this down, so that cost is going to get down. But right now, they sell the device for $500. It really costs them more, and they make it up over time as people subscribe for longer. If you're paying $100 a month and it costs them $1,000, if they lost $1,000 on the device, but you subscribe for 10 years, then they make a lot more money on your monthly subscription over the time than they lose in that short term on the device. But hopefully they can get that cost down. And Elon says cost is coming down rapidly. So that's Elon Tweets. Let me just check comments here, the chat, to see if anybody's thinking anything worthwhile. How does FSD Robotaxi handle a broken windscreen? It probably pulls over and waits for somebody to come fix it. How do humans handle a broken radar screen? Keep in mind, a windscreen. They have 5 cameras. We only have 2, and our 2 are really close together. So let's move on. We're moving on to Monkey. This is fun. Probably a lot of you have probably seen this, but this is part of the video. I'm going to talk about this a bit, but first let's watch. I made a shortened version of the video.
The links record from more than 2,000 electrodes implanted in the regions of Page's motor cortex that coordinate hand and arm movements. Neurons in this region
right here, he's controlling
their
with the joystick
with intended hand movement. For example, some might become more active when he moves his hand up, and others when he moves it to the right. First, we calibrate the decoder by recording neural activity as Pager uses the joystick to move a cursor to targets presented on the screen. As he's playing this game, we're wirelessly streaming, in real time, the firing rates from thousands of neurons to a computer. Using these data, we calibrate the decoder by mathematically modeling the relationship between patterns of neural activity and the different joystick movements they produce.
Look closely at the joystick.
After only a few minutes of calibration, we can use the output from the decoder to move the cursor instead of the joystick. Pager still moves the joystick out of habit, but as you can see, it's unplugged. He's controlling the cursor entirely with decoded neural activity. One of the things the Neuralinks allow Pager to do is to play his favorite video game, Pong. To control his paddle on the right side of the screen, Pager simply thinks about moving his hand up or down. We've removed the joystick altogether. Now that he's up to speed, let's increase the difficulty and see how well Pager can play with the Neuralink.
So I'm pretty excited about that, but first, full disclosure, I played Pong when I was one of the first users of Pong. I was back in that generation when Pong was actually a fun video game when I was a kid. We had Pong in my house. We played Pong on a something like an Atari on our home TV. So very, very exciting. The idea is the monkey has chips in its skull. They remove a quarter-size section of skull or a silver dollar size section of skull. They implant threads into the brain with the chips. They're able to follow brain signals as the monkey is moving the joystick around and see whether the monkey wants to go up or down or right or left and interpret that. And then they're able to disconnect the joystick and the monkey is controlling the screen. It's controlling the same thing on the screen with only its mind and a Wi-Fi connection from the brain chip to the device. So he's not using his hand anymore. It reads where he wants his hand to move. And then I take it further, and he's playing Pong without ever even using a joystick. He learns to control that. So this is huge. Now I want to say, okay, cute parlor trick, and this kind of thing has been done before with other devices like the Utah Array. But the Utah Array is a big, bulky device that's very, very uncomfortable, and you can't carry it with you. You have to do it in the facility. There's damage as a result of the Utah Array. This is a very, very new way of doing a brain chip implant that is basically zero damage to the person, to the subject, monkey, human, whatever. And you can move around with it. No one knows it's there. It carries its charge for a long time. There's a lot of potential for this, for making a huge difference for humanity in so many different ways. Number one, helping paralyzed people be able to move again. At the least, being for a paralyzed person to be able to control a cursor on a screen or type words on a screen. That is something that's probably coming soon. People who are totally paralyzed will now be able to communicate. And you can train them because they can understand our language, and you can say, focus on this, see if you can get this to move, or think about moving your hand. We can train that. So, hi, Alexandra. So, really, really exciting that this is making progress. And there's brain diseases. Can we use this? Can they use this to help paralyzed people ultimately learn to walk again by connecting their brain signals to either the muscle groups that are on the other side of a severed spinal cord, or for people who have some other kind of problems, an exoskeleton. Exoskeleton things have been done before, but can you imagine when Tesla's engineering team decides, let's build an exoskeleton that works better? Huge potential there. Then and blindness, helping blind people see, helping deaf people hear better. And then brain diseases like Alzheimer's, which my family suffers from. My grandmother had it. My mother has it. Parkinson's disease. I think Parkinson's disease might be deeper in the brain. That might be tougher. But there's a lot of brain diseases that may be helped by this. And then ultimately you go deep enough in the future and you get some really, really big ideas. Like upload your brain state. And if you die, you can download your consciousness onto a robot or a new biological being that's been created. You can go really, really big science fiction and say, well, what if we created 1,000 copies of your mind, and we downloaded them onto 1,000 different robots and sent them in 1,000 different starships to 1,000 different star systems. That's pretty big thinking right there. Elon Musk is known for liking the Ian Banks Culture series. It's a series of novels. Recommend taking a look at that. They're on Amazon. I got them in my local library. Definitely worth reading. There's a lot of hints of that neural lace, a lot of descriptions of how that might work in that particular novel, and Elon's a big fan. So that's the monkey. Any thoughts about the monkey? Let's see. Utah Array can connect through Bluetooth. Hawking, well, yeah, Stephen Hawking could have been helped by this. Boston Dynamics, can imagine there's so many different ways that this stuff can play. And I want to mention one other thing, which is there's going to be a challenge in understanding the signals coming from the brain and being able to read them better. And there's a challenge also, Neuralink. I don't believe the current generation of Neuralink is sending signals into the brain yet. They're receiving signals from the brain. They're reading what the neurons are outputting. Ultimately, they want to also be able to input to the neurons and to send signals in, which can help in various ways. So understanding what the signals are coming out, what all the different neuron firings mean, understanding what the effect is of the signals you send in. This sounds like a great job for an artificial intelligence machine learning approach. When Dojo finishes improving FSD, full self-driving for Tesla, to the point where it's already so good it doesn't need to be improved that much more, or a second generation Dojo is created, could that be applied to understanding signals coming from the brain to better understand what the brain is saying, so that the cures for the brain diseases are more effective, so that the ability for the paralyzed person to control their body is more effective? All of those are big plus. But also sending signals into the brain, can we more effectively deliver an image to a blind person so that the blind person can see better? Will machine learning help with being able to figure out what works best and how does that work? I think there's a lot of potential for that. in so many different ways. We're going to see this rocket forward. It's going to be amazing. All right, let's move on. We're going to Tesla. I've tried to take notes so I can do chapters later. We'll see about that. So Tesla, the big news, let's start with this. We've all seen this before. I think Tesla announced a couple of weeks ago that this is about 10 days ago, they delivered 185,000 vehicles. They produced 180,000 vehicles. I think we already covered that in last week. But so we now know that the earnings call is scheduled for April 26th. This is a little later than I thought it would be, but doesn't really matter. All these people on Twitter were like, breaking news, they announced their webcast. Not really that exciting. Okay, we knew they were going to do this. We didn't know what day. There's not a lot of other new information here. But there was one other piece of information I thought was really, really exciting, which is Tesla delivered, right at the bottom here, Tesla delivered 35 to 36,000 units from China, in China. If you do the math on that, it works out to about 450,000 vehicles a year just from the China factory. And if you do the math and you figure, well, if they're going to do 450,000 from Shanghai, which is still growing, Shanghai is still increasing production, and they're going to deliver 500,000 from Fremont, and they're going to deliver some from Berlin and Austin, then the chance of reaching 1 million vehicles is looking a lot better. 36,000 units there. They're probably going to get to 40,000 or more units a month in Shanghai. We're going to see Fremont scale. We're going to see Austin and Berlin start getting vehicles out. And the prospects for achieving that 1 million vehicles in 2021, those are improving. There's a lot of potential for that. Very, very exciting. Mark Plot, thank you. There's a big supercharger station going in Harris Ranch in California. Tesla's building a lot more superchargers. That's another detail that's been coming. So that's sort of the major Tesla news that I've seen. I talked about the FSD earlier. Stock price is sort of up and down. I couldn't believe after the delivery numbers that the stock price didn't go up more than this. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand the short-term stock traders and how they think. The long-term share price is driven by the company's actual numbers, the fundamentals. But on the short term, you get people trading on all these kind of crazy scenarios, and they're not necessarily thinking, where's this company going to be in 5 or 10 years? So that really stood out to me as something that was an issue. And it's going to lead us into where we are going next, which is my profit model, which I published 5 videos yesterday. So we're going to profit model. So we're almost through with our outline. We're going to get to Q&A soon. The profit model is a big deal. So in the past, I've done models where I just talked about robotaxis straight up. I didn't talk about anything else. That was a robotaxi profit model, and that's going to be incorporated in this profit model I'm going to talk about now. The other big model that I did that I was really excited about was the battery revenue model. That's a model I did where I looked at, okay, they're going to produce 6 terawatt hours of batteries in 2030, or they're going to have 100 gigawatt hours of batteries in 2022. What does that translate to in terms of revenue for the company? And then how do we translate that revenue to market cap? How do we translate to market cap and then to share price? And so I did something different this time that's been stewing on this for a while. I did my first cut on trying to work through vehicle production, megapack production, solar production, and robotaxis, and add it all together to try to come up with a sort of overall model, taking into account not just revenue, but also margins and profit. So I was calling it the margins model. I'm calling it the profit model now. So just an example of this, I looked at megapack. And this is the extreme optimist case. This is probably pushing it. I'm not sure it's pushing it, but this is, if you look down to 2030 here, you look all the way down to 2030, you see 4,400 gigawatt hours of batteries, or 4.4 terawatt hours of batteries. This is a very optimistic scenario for Tesla producing a huge, huge volume of megapacks. And you'll notice as you go down, I'm reducing the profit per kilowatt hour to a much lower level, with the idea being that it's either competitive pressures or it's just market saturation that leads to the profit per kilowatt hour dropping. But you can see an insane profit story on megapack as you get out to 2030, if they're able to achieve those kind of volumes. And just to go back to 2026, which is right here, CATL has said they're going to produce 1,200 gigawatt hours or 1.2 terawatt hours of lithium iron phosphate batteries in 2026. That's just one of Tesla's suppliers is going to be hitting 1.2 terawatt hours. So this number here, this 469 gigawatt hours, that could be low. If Tesla is the major customer for CATL's lithium iron phosphate batteries, which I believe it is, and it takes a large chunk of those and puts them in a Megapack, and Tesla has said that Megapack is going to use lithium iron phosphate, this number could be very low. And the profit, the lithium iron phosphate cells don't cost that much. And I didn't say this, I feel like I left something out, so I definitely feel like I'm gonna have to redo this video or do a sort of summary video on this whole model. The demand for Megapack is gonna be huge. We're shifting to a world where most electricity is going to be generated by, I'm going to turn this off. Most of the electricity in the world is going to be generated by solar and wind. Solar and wind are great in terms of low-cost energy generation, but solar doesn't work when the sun's not shining, and windmills don't work when the wind isn't blowing. So both of them need to have energy storage, grid storage, in order to save that energy and use it later when the sun isn't shining, when the wind isn't blowing. And I don't think if I've talked about this before. I have a friend who works for a major company that produces, in his case, natural gas powered electricity generation plants. And I remember talking to him, this is probably like 15 years ago. We were talking about solar and wind, and he's like, "Oh, that'll never be that's always going to cost more than gas." Because gas was fairly, I think they were around 3 cents a kilowatt hour in producing electricity through the gas power plants. And solar and wind cost of producing electricity has dropped so dramatically. I was talking to this friend just a few weeks ago, and he's like, "Yeah, they caught us. Yep, solar and wind are going to be cheaper. If they're not already cheaper already, they're going to be cheaper soon. And there's really not going to be a market for new gas power plants." And gas is like the cheapest one of the bunch, you know, and it's cleaner. I think coal might be cheaper, but coal is really dirty. So we're going to see a massive switch in our society worldwide. We're going to see a massive switch to solar and wind. And all of that solar and wind energy generation is going to need grid storage to carry that energy forward. So that's a huge deal. And I'm sort of like, I don't know how big that market is, but I think it's really, really big. So when I put up these numbers, I'm not sure how fast the profit declines, and I'm not sure we're even close to the maximum potential market size at 4,400, 4.4 terawatt hours in 2030. Elon and Drew seem to think the market was like 10 terawatt hours in 2030 for grid storage and other storage like that. So in that particular scenario, I got vehicle profits, the way I did this, were lower because in this particular story I did here, I have the robotaxi numbers are really, really high at the end. You see $1.6 trillion in profit. This is the scenario where Tesla goes all in on robotaxi and either stops selling vehicles or sells a lot fewer vehicles and dumps all the vehicles that it produces as much as possible into the robotaxi network. And you end up generating absolutely obscene profits from the robotaxi network. This is with the profit for robotaxis dropping from $50,000 a robotaxi a year down to $8,000 a robotaxi a year. It's just a huge number of robotaxis to serve a much broader array of uses. Megapacks over here, you see Megapack is still pretty significant. In the green column, you see solar and Powerwall. There's really a lot of potential for solar and Powerwall to scale up. So that's covered in the video series. And then you get to total profits here. You get 2.6 trillion. This particular scenario is probably too optimistic. Okay, I don't want people to believe I think this is actually going to happen. But you get 2.6 trillion in gross profit. You get 2.2 trillion in net profit, and you end up with a market cap of 100 trillion and a share price effectively of $100,000 a share. These numbers are probably unreasonable. Okay, and I did a few other models. I had 5 different approaches to looking at this. And it's, a lot of it depends on where you think things are going. My bear case using this set of modeling was around $8,000 a share, which is the same as I had in the battery revenue model. The bear case is around $8,000 a share. So I don't think I'm that far off. I did another version of this where I made it more vertically friendly here. And you can see I'm holding vehicle profits down. The important detail here, let me move this over. The important detail here is if you look at 2026, the way I did this particular model, there's a theory that Tesla's going to grow really fast in the next few years. Let me pick this off the screen for a second. There's a theory that Tesla's going to go really fast in the next few years. I do this really fast and then taper. Like it's going to go up and then it's going to taper off. Up, steep, and then taper off. So this model, a lot of my models that I've been doing now, I've started incorporating that taper. And this is one of them where, you know, it goes to $12,000 a share in 2026, which is, you know, more than 10x. Maybe is that 100x where it is now? It's more than 10x where it is now. It's like 15x where it is now. And then it only doubles to 2030. So what's driving this, as you can see, like vehicle profits really sort of tail off in my model as you get out to 2030. That once from 2026 to 2030, it actually starts declining. It goes up a little more in 2027, and then it starts declining as you go out to 2030, because even though vehicle production increases or stays flat, the margins, the profits, because of competitive pressures or market saturation, you see those come down. It's just a bunch of different ways to look at it. I also incorporated Cybertruck, semi, and a van as a separate category. I don't know if it really made a big difference. It certainly doesn't move the needle in this particular model. I think semi is going to be a lot bigger than people realize, and semi is driving these numbers more than anything else. There's a huge, huge market for semi around the world. And, you know, maybe I'm undercutting Cybertruck when I do that model. We'll see. And so this is the more conservative model. You can see Robotaxi only produces $320 billion in revenue in 2030. Megapack's still big. And this particular model, you get to $24,000 a share in 2030. But I did like my more extreme model, and I actually think this is reasonable. This is my more extreme model here. Make it a little bigger. So you can see here, we get Tesla's share price in 2026. At the bottom there, you see $27,000 a share, and then it just a little bit more than doubles to 2030. And again, you see the vehicle profits tail off. Every time I model this, I see the vehicle profits sort of tailing off as you get out to 2030, just because in theory there's increasing competition, or more vehicles are going into the robo-taxi network, so Tesla's not selling as many, or the margins have declined because of market saturation. There's a lot of different reasons for this. I think in some ways this is conservative, because some people might say no, vehicle profits are going to continue rising. But you know, in this model where I've been more conservative than the 1.6 trillion, you still get to $1 trillion in profit on robotaxi. This is with, I think it's 100 million robotaxis earning $10,000 a year in profit. That's gross profit. You go down a little further and you cut it down to net profit. So this is the model that I did. I would encourage you to watch this series. It's a series of 5 videos. I did something different in terms of as a YouTuber. What I have been doing is making fairly long videos. Of course, my live stream videos tend to be fairly long, but my edited videos, some of them get to 30, 40 plus minutes. And a video like this would have been around 35 or 40 minutes if I had done it the way I normally do it, but I wanted to try something different, so I made it as 5 separate videos, released them all at about the same time. So if you're looking at my channel, the first one you would see is video number 1, part 1, and each one at the end I point, check here to go to part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. For some reason, part 5, which is the summary video, got the most views. I think people don't understand this. The YouTube algorithm, YouTube works in mysterious ways. The YouTube algorithm for my channel seems to favor longer videos. So I think it just showed part 5 to more people. And more people clicked on it for whatever reason. Maybe it just had the word profit in it. Maybe there's something more attractive about the thumbnail. But I think YouTube just likes the fact that people watch that video longer. So it showed that video to more people. But a lot of the substance was in the first 4 videos. And the 3 videos in the middle were short and they're not getting a lot of views. I don't understand that. People are always telling my videos are too long. I should make shorter videos. Here you go. I made some short videos and most people watch the longest one. So when I make long videos and you wonder, why does Warren keep making long videos? Now you know. I tested it. I've tested it before. I'm testing it again. So I hope that people appreciate that. Oh, thank you, Mike. Nice to see you, Mike. So, I think that's pretty much it for what I wanted to say on the model. I hope people have questions about the model. Let's go into the Q&A now. So here we are in the Q&A section. I'm going to slide back a little bit. Let's see how we're doing here. Thaddeus Walker, part 1 and part 2 did not give me notifications. It's interesting. I'm not sure how the notification thing works. Yeah, part 5 came up first in Rob's feed. Rob Guy says part 5 came up first in my feed. I think YouTube decides when you're looking at the home screen, what videos is it going to show you? And if you go to my channel, you would see part 1 first. And part 1 did get the second most views of the group, but for some reason, YouTube kept showing part 5 to people. I don't know. If people want to see the final figures, maybe that's it. Maybe most of you are just interested in hearing the profit numbers and the share price, and you're less interested in how I got there. I don't know. Yeah, it's A/B testing. I'm testing different approaches. But for people who complain all the time, Warren, you should make shorter videos, I tried. I tried making shorter videos. You didn't watch them. You're not going back to my channel to watch the short versions. You like the long one. German girls, yeah. Gnome Blaster, yeah, there may be a point to that, Gnome Blaster, that the shorter attention spans are kept away and allows for more critical thinking. That may be true. So let's see about questions. Is Lucid a fraud? I think Lucid is a fraud. I can't say for sure. It's my opinion. I do have 5 videos or 6 videos on my channel talking about Lucid Motors. I am very, very dubious about Lucid. Oh, Jim Whitehead says, some creators say YouTube gives you twice the income if you have a 10-minute minimum on their videos because they can double the advertising inserts. Jim, it's actually an 8-minute limit. It used to be a 10-minute limit, and they changed it to 8. So if your video's over 8 minutes, then you have the option for what's called mid-roll advertising. If you're watching this video later and you've noticed ads in the middle, because this video is longer than 8 minutes, there are ads inserted. If I don't control it, YouTube inserts an insane amount of ads in the middle of the videos. And I actually go through, and most of my videos, when I remember, it doesn't let me do it right away, but at a certain point I'm able to go in and I'm able to remove a lot of the ads because I don't like my videos being cluttered with too many ads, especially like a video like this, what might be 2 hours long. I don't want people to be subjected to 25 ads. So, Michael Corden, by 2030, what cost per mile will Tesla robotaxis be versus robotaxi competitors? And then by 2035, I don't go past 2030 in my analysis. I believe that Tesla robotaxis will be operating, not the price for the consumer, but the price for operating the vehicle. I believe that the 2023 Tesla compact robotaxi will be getting the cost per mile down below 10 cents a mile. Vehicle cost, not passenger cost. And maybe as low as 7 cents a mile. I think a future pod car robotaxi, single passenger robotaxi would get that down to 2 or 3 cents a mile. So competitors, I have not seen a competitor on the horizon who's going to get costs anywhere near that. Waymo is probably more than $1 a mile operating cost for the vehicle, including depreciation. When they've got a $100,000 vehicle, it's going to last 100,000 miles. That's $1 a mile. $100,000. Where Tesla, you've got million-mile vehicles, and the operating costs, if it's a $25,000 vehicle, that's only 2.5 cents a mile. And then you spread that out. So there's a lot of, you're able to save a lot of money. And then the electricity cost is less. The LiDAR uses a lot of electricity. So let's see. Thoughts on the Tesla Economist videos? Chris Anderson asked me. So there's another channel that does models like mine called the Tesla Economist. I've tried watching it. I have a confession to make. It's hard for me to watch other people's models. Honestly, it's getting hard for me to watch other YouTube videos. I watch some YouTube videos. I like the Boring Revolution channel. If you haven't watched that, Will Bradbury does great videos about the Boring Company. I watch a lot of SpaceX stuff. It's getting hard for me to watch Tesla videos because I spend so much time thinking about Tesla and so much time making my own videos and my own models. Let's see. What does Elon mean on Twitter that they will go to the moon soon? Joseph, I mentioned that at the beginning of the video in the welcome section. Oh no, sorry, that was in the Elon Tweets section. I mentioned that I don't know what he meant. I did a Twitter poll on it and didn't get a clear answer. How many new markets can Tesla get in between 25 and 30? Where does Tesla stop? This is a great question. Thank you, Albert, for that question. So when I do my models, I focus on the things we know about. Vehicles, solar, Megapack, robotaxi. Those are the main things we know about. I have not included things like Dojo as a service. I think Dojo as a service, Tesla AI training as a service could be big. Tesla HVAC, there's a lot of hints that Tesla's going to do some kind of heating, ventilation, air conditioning for the home. I mean, they've been pretty clear they want to do it. How much is that worth? I think that's worth a lot of money, but I haven't modeled that yet. Oh, good question here, Mav Ace. So I do think when I do my models, to some extent I'm being conservative because I'm not considering other things that Tesla might do later. They're going to have a lot of capital to be able to fund these operations, and as they solve certain problems like self-driving, and they don't need to devote resources to improving self-driving that much anymore, they'll be able to devote those resources into other things. Mav Ace, do you think models going out to 20 or 30 are pointless, considering it's impossible to predict world events that far out? Great question. I don't think it's pointless. I mean, I think you have a point that it's sort of iffy when you get out that far. The thing is, they've told us we're going to produce 3 terawatt hours of batteries in 2030, so that's a good basis to look forward. Elon has said we're going to produce 20 million vehicles by 2030. They've given us some reason to think this is where they're heading, so I do think it makes sense to model that and see where would that go. And I am personally a long-term investor. I do not plan on selling any shares until 2030 at the earliest, maybe not even then. So I do look that far out. Oh, Joanne Fagan, great question. Which of your share price projections do you think most likely? So I think the $100,000 a share, $200,000 share price projections are unlikely. Not impossible, but those are unlikely. You know, the projection I just did of $60,000 a share, I really don't think any of that's crazy. It really just comes down to because the big drivers of profits, let me put that up. Let me see if let me pull this image up. Do I have it here? I don't see it. Oh, wait, no, wait, right there. Top. It's top. That one. This one. Let me shrink this down. So this is the one where I have the $60,000 a share in 2030. So what you can see here is the 3 big things driving this number are the $1 trillion for robotaxi and profit, the $500 billion for Megapack, and the $360 billion for solar. Those are the 3 big drivers. So you have to ask yourself the question, all right, is $1 trillion in robotaxi profit possible? Well, 50 million robotaxis making $20,000 a year in profit each would reach $1 trillion in gross profit. And 100 million robotaxis making $10,000 a year in profit would be $1 trillion in gross profit. So do you think it's reasonable that Tesla could own a 50 million vehicle fleet by 2030, or even 100 million vehicle fleet by 2030? I think it's reasonable. I think if Tesla follows the path I think they should follow to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy and to maximize profit, which they're supposed to do for shareholders, they can fulfill both missions at once this way. I think it's reasonable that you could get to $1 trillion in profit for robotaxi. Megapack, I think the potential market for Megapack is huge. $500 billion in profit there. I don't think it's crazy. Solar and Powerwall, I really think you could reach those numbers. I think this is still probably a little bit more than is likely, but this is within reach. This is like I think there's a 25% chance that Tesla gets here. The most likely is somewhere in the ballpark of $40,000 a share. My gut is $40,000 a share in 2030. That's my gut. And I think the bigger thing here is less about 2030. It's more about 2026. 2026 here, I'm talking about $27,000 a share. And there you're only talking about $300 billion in robotaxi profit, which is 10 million robotaxis making $30,000 a year in profit. Megapack has scaled substantially. That Megapack number depends on CATL producing the batteries we expect them to produce. I don't think this is crazy. So that was a great question, Joanne. Thank you for asking that. Kevin Crady, when does Tesla start building charging infrastructure for robotaxi? You can't use the supercharger network to charge your robotaxi. Kevin, I disagree with you. You can use the supercharger network to charge your robotaxi. I believe the supercharger network is the infrastructure for the robotaxi network for Tesla-owned robotaxis and for your own robotaxi if you're putting your vehicle in the robotaxi network. Sam Lee, where do you see Tesla in 30 years? I don't look that far ahead. That's way too far out. Declan Murphy, is there a possibility in the late 20s when cars and factories are fully ramped that Tesla cuts profit margins dramatically to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy? So Declan, I don't see profit margins falling because Tesla wants to cut them. I see profit margins, no Gus, not after splits. I see profit margins falling for 2 potential reasons. The less likely reason is that competition comes in and that puts pricing pressure on Tesla. My impression is that Tesla is the killer at keeping its costs down, so Tesla will be the price leader in everything it does. and it will be hard for competition to come in and cut into Tesla's profits that way. The bigger reason I think that profit margins fall is market saturation. That one of Elon's goals is to make these things affordable, to drive the products into more and more markets, to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. You have to reach poor people. And you can't make as much profit off poor people because they don't have as much money. So at least I don't think you can. So in order to drive that further, to reduce CO2 emissions, to reduce fossil fuel usage, all of the problems there, and to improve the efficiency of the simulation we're all living in, driving the volume of production to such levels that I think it might end up reducing profit margins in that way. Rob Markovich, Warren, can you discuss the charging infrastructure needed for semi? Thanks. Yes. I think Tesla's already working on mega chargers. I think they'll put them at truck stops. I think they'll put them at their major customers. So if Walmart uses Tesla semis, then at the Walmart warehouses, they'll have mega chargers. And when the truck stops to unload, they'll plug it in. I think that charging semi is actually going to be fairly easy. Anybody who owns them and uses them in any volume is going to install their own mega charger to support their operations. I just don't think that's a big deal. Heinz, how about a video on how Elon Musk is cross-pollinating his companies? That's a good topic. I think that's a big topic for me. I'm not sure that I have a great answer to that. I don't know if I have that video in me. I think there's a lot of that going on. Mike Smith, Warren, have you seen the new structure for SunPass on the Turnpike yet? I'm not sure what you're referring to, so I can't answer your question. In Miami-Dade County, the SunPass, this is like a device. It's like a sticker in your windshield. When you drive through the toll area, it reads that, what is it called, an RFID chip or something? It reads it and you just drive through without having to slow down. I didn't know there were more of them. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Costa Conti, Warren, why does Tesla Energy not own a utility company to sell electricity? I think that Elon has a certain amount of bandwidth. I don't know if they have, they just moved Jerome Guillen to president of heavy trucking. Is there a Tesla employee who's ready to run a utility subsidiary? I'm not sure they have that. Maybe as they scale Megapack production, maybe they'll start thinking about, I think the big question is, could Tesla start creating its own Megapack farms and solar farms? And I do think it could happen. Rosie, thank you for your support. Thank you for your super sticker. Elliot asks, Warren, what questions would you want answers to? I have a video. I'm not probably going to do more videos like this. I have a video in my live stream series, probably 5 or 6 videos ago, where it's called Questions for Elon, where I talked about questions I would ask Elon about Tesla. I want to do another one where I talk about SpaceX, another one about Neuralink and Boring Company. Corey Bryant, do you think we'll see in-ocean boring tunnels for moving freight internationally? Corey, I'm going to be making a video soon about boring the Bering Strait. I thought this was a radical idea of mine. It turns out that people have been talking about this for a while. I think boring a tunnel through the Bering Strait and then being able to connect. Remember, Asia and Europe are connected, right? They're the same supercontinent, really. I think that a large percentage of the world's population could be connected through boring tunnels through the Bering Strait. Wow, a lot of questions. Thanks, everybody, for your questions. Alexandra asked, did you see the 16-seater van in the Loop in Vegas news? I saw that they referred to a 16-seater van. I don't think that's something that's going to happen soon, but we don't know. I think once they get Cybertruck production going and they get Austin and Texas going, I think the next project is pretty obviously the 2023 Compact. And then after that, I think it's going to be a van. My gut is the van. I think there could be 2 vans. My gut is the major van that would be the 16-passenger van that Alexandra's talking about is going to be built roughly on the Cybertruck platform, same length, same width. Elon has said that they're reduced the size of Cybertruck to make sure it fits in the tunnels. Well, I'm not sure why Cybertruck needs to fit in the tunnels, but I know a van needs to fit in the tunnels. So I think we're going to see a van that's built on the Cybertruck platform. I also think they might build a smaller van based on the 2023 Robotaxi platform that they're talking about. That's going to be an interesting idea. I think we're going to see multiple bodies on whatever that platform is. And I think one of them might be a smaller van that seats 5 or 6 people comfortably. Maybe more than that. Yeah, I didn't do much on Starship. SN15 is coming soon. It's on the pad. We'll see what happens with that. Sean, do you think there's a possibility the media will put a negative spin on FSD beta wide release, especially if there's an accident? I think that the media will put a negative spin on anything Tesla does indefinitely. I don't know when that's going to change. I don't think there will be an FSD beta accident anytime soon. There have been like 1,000 people driving FSD to beta for months now, and as far as I know, maybe there's been a minor accident. I don't think anyone's been hurt yet. So let's see. When will the pod car be produced by Tesla? I think we're probably looking around 2026, 2027. If I'm right that this is where they go, I think that the long-term, the optimal vehicle for the robotaxi network for delivering people around would be a pod car robotaxi, a single passenger vehicle that's half as wide and half as long as modern cars, which means they use half the lane space. You can get more use out of the lanes. The tunnels would be able to handle 2 vehicles side by side, and the cost of producing them would be a lot lower. The electricity cost of running them would be a lot lower. Peter Liu, Warren, do you think Tesla will be planning to build more factories this year? No. Well, I mean, they're building more production on the factory sites they have, but they're not going to add more factory sites this year. I mean, they have Shanghai, they have Berlin, they have Texas. I don't think they're going to be building additional cities this year. It's possible they'll announce something. I have this theory that Giga Japan is coming. I don't know when. There's a lot of people who think something's happening in India. I don't know when. The best guess I've heard is Giga India for Tesla Semi. The market for Semi in India is double the size of the market in North America. I was surprised to learn that, but I did hear that. So I think there's a lot of potential there. I also think there's potential for a truck between Semi and Cybertruck. You've got Semi is big and pulls 80,000 pounds, and Cybertruck, the maximum towing, I think, is like 14,000 pounds. So I think something that, then the Cybertruck is sort of like a Ford F-150, F-250. I think a scaled down Semi that's more like a Ford F-550 could be really interesting. I don't know how big the market is for that, but I don't know if they're going to bother with that, but I could see that making sense. Good question here. Will Berlin have lithium iron phosphate batteries for Model Y production? I don't think they're going to be using lithium iron phosphate in Berlin for a while. I think they're going to start with the high nickel cells only on Model Y. I think they will expand to nickel manganese cells. Eventually, there will be iron phosphate cells in Europe. I'm not sure when those are going to be produced or by whom, or whether they're just going to have CATL ship the batteries over. CATL produces them at such low cost and so efficiently. I'm not sure it makes sense to... It does make sense to me that somebody would produce iron phosphate cells in Europe. I just don't know when that's going to happen. Larry says, German auto unions rule the auto industry. Do I expect this to disrupt Tesla's production scheduled opening in Berlin and Giga Berlin? I think that a lot of things in Germany are slowing things down for Tesla, but I don't think it's going to slow production that much. I think Tesla's going to start producing vehicles in the third quarter and produce in volume and start ramping in the fourth quarter significantly. I get this question a lot. Crazen asks, how destructive can the Chinese government be for Tesla? I don't know why people are so obsessed with the Chinese government, thinking that the Chinese government is a big problem. The greatest threat, I'm an American, okay? And I've believed this for a long time now. The greatest threat to the American people is in Washington, D.C. It's not in Moscow. It's not in Beijing. It's not in Iran. It's not in North Korea. The greatest threat to the American people is in Washington, D.C. If you're worried about some government causing problems for Tesla, the most likely source of those problems is the U.S. government or the California government. I do not worry about Chinese government at all. I don't know why people are so worried about that. Joseph asks, Warren, any updates on your solar roof? I don't think there's anything new. I think I already reported in a previous video that I had positive news. The state has approved solar roof statewide. There's apparently some pilot projects that are going to happen in Palm Beach County where I live, and they got to get those done before they can come to other roofs. So hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months. You say wham bam Tesla scam every time you see Tesla cam every time you see a Tesla on the road. I do not say that. That's cute though. Will Tesla buy Boring Company? I hear this question a lot. No, Tesla will not buy the Boring Company. Elon does not want to subject any of his other companies to the public scrutiny of being under Tesla's umbrella. He does not. Tesla got sued over acquiring Solar City. I think that's a terrible idea to acquire a Boring Company. I don't think there's any gain from it. There's a lot to lose. How many gigafactories and terafactories in the US in 2030? That's a really good question. So Bill Wozniacki asked this question. So I'm going to say it differently globally. I expect that we're going to see, I'm not sure whether terafactory is really going to be a thing. I think they're building the battery cell lines where they're building the vehicles. So I don't know whether terafactory is just a saying. I think the terafactory might be within the same complex where they're building other things. Maybe they'll build terafactories separately. I think we're going to see 3 main manufacturing sites in the world. We're going to see Berlin, we're going to see Shanghai, and we're going to see Austin, Texas. I do think there's a chance of Giga Tokyo or Giga Osaka, actually, Giga Japan. I think there's a chance of some kind of gigafactory in India, such a big market, especially for semi. Outside of that, I think the chances are pretty slim. One of the things that Elon talks about when he talks about locating factories is he wants to locate factories in places where a lot of bright, hardworking engineers want to be for their free time. And Austin, Texas ranks really high. I could see the Research Triangle in North Carolina being a place Tesla might locate a factory so it can reach the East Coast easier. But I'm not sure they're going to bother doing that. Maybe Georgia, maybe North Carolina, something, South Carolina, something like that. Maybe I really think that potentially that area in North Carolina is possible. But I think right now, they're growing like crazy in Texas, and maybe that's good enough. So India, what were we talking about? Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, also Bengaluru, whatever. Those are all possible. I don't think the UK, people ask about the UK all the time. I don't think there's going to be a Tesla I could be wrong. We're always wrong. We're hoping to be less wrong. Remember the t-shirts, Elon time, link in the description below. I don't think we're going to see a factory in England because I don't think there's a location in the UK that is extremely attractive to engineers where they want to be in their free time. Dublin, maybe. London is too crowded. There's something near London, maybe. I don't know. So I've heard things about Manchester, maybe. I just don't see a lot of promise in Europe, really. Like, Europe has been terrible. All the lockdowns in Europe are not really appealing. If you were going to build a factory somewhere and they're just locking down irrationally, I don't think that's appealing. So I don't see Giga England. It could happen. I just don't think it's that likely. Yeah, there's rumors about all sorts of places, whether it's England or was it Somerset, I think was one place they were talking about. But if you look at the Somerset location, that's not near, that's a little far from London. What's it near? What's the fun things to do for the engineers when they're done with work? Sanjay, do you think Elon can go crazy and become a supervillain? I think Elon already is crazy, and some people already think he's a supervillain. Just ask Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Robert Reich. They already think he's a supervillain. Craig Strikes, didn't Elon say his goal is to have a factory on every continent? Yes. I would actually say Giga Brazil. Well, so right now there's a factory on the 3 major continents, Asia, North America, and Europe. I definitely think Brazil, somewhere in South America, would make sense. Maybe, I'm not sure. I don't see a gigafactory in Africa anytime soon. I just don't think that makes sense. I think we can rule out Antarctica. So I don't know what's left. There's probably, Australia's too small. I definitely think we're going to see some operations in places that have nickel, like Indonesia. I don't know what, they're going to have some kind of production beyond just mining the nickel. Are they going to take it to the point of producing the batteries there? I'm not sure. I think it could be just producing an intermediate product that takes nickel from raw mining material to something that's good for batteries, but maybe, I'm not sure they would produce the batteries there. Core Glass, great question. Thank you, and thank you for your support. Will Tesla compact car be a 2 or 4-seater? 2-seater would cover a lot of use cases and save dollars, increase range, etc. I think that the Tesla compact 2023 vehicle will have multiple layouts. I don't think going to 2 seats is going to save that much money. I think it's probably going to be worthwhile to produce a 4 or 5-seater in high volume. But I think we'll also see like a van, maybe with 2 seats or no seats, or 6 seats. I think there's a lot of different layouts that they're going to be able to build on that platform. Yes, socialists who want to steal all my money are the actual supervillains. I agree, Jim. Giga Southeast Asia country. I think Thailand, Vietnam are possible, but I just, is there a city in Southeast Asia where engineers want to be? Like, I know in India, we had this conversation on Clubhouse. Bangalore. Hyderabad, maybe. Chennai. Mumbai, maybe, probably not. There are cities in India where engineers do want to be. So I do think that's possible in India. I don't know whether Bangkok or Saigon, is it Pyongyang, whatever. I don't know if there's any cities in Vietnam that are that attractive. I don't know if Bangkok is that attractive. I mean, I know Bangkok is attractive to some people. Maybe that's a fun place. I don't know enough, really, to comment on that. Let's see. John says, once they perfect boring tunnels, Tesla can build a factory anywhere outside or between cities and make it easy for workers to live and work in different places. Yes, I think that makes some sense. I definitely think that we're going to see, like, you know, with Elon talking about housing pressures in Austin, maybe he'll do something about housing. That's kind of a big stretch, though, that I don't know if he wants to put his time into that. What are my thoughts on Cybertruck being released in Denmark? I think it's going to happen. I just don't know when. Giga Dubai, there's not enough population in the Middle East to support a gigafactory in the Middle East from what I see. Tesla Arcimoto partnership in India, no. Floating gigafactory, no. Spain would be a good location for a solar factory. I don't know about that. I think China produces solar extremely well. Do I think Tesla will move out of California like Elon said last year? I think Tesla is going to stop growing production in California. I think all of Elon's companies are eventually going to move most of their operations to Austin. I think Elon has made a decision. He wants to do that. I think he will leave Fremont running as long as it's producing in a cost-competitive manner. I think at some point Fremont may have run out of its usefulness and be shut down. So I think it could happen. I think SpaceX might move stuff to Texas as well. Aaron, thank you for your support. Warren, I spoke with Fidelity Investments about private investments via IRA. They gave a very vague answer. Maybe you've heard anything from Fidelity about this. Aaron, I emailed Fidelity to the right email address that I had. I got from Fidelity, and they did not answer me. This is about whether Fidelity Investments will allow IRA investors to invest in alternative investments like venture capital funds or private equity through their IRAs. And I did not get a response. I was kind of surprised I didn't get any response at all. Jim Whitehead says that New York has high proposed tax increases. And a lot of billionaires are getting... A lot of people are leaving New York. That's true. When will Tesla remove the steering wheel and redesign the interior of the robotaxi? I think we may see a variation of that in the 2023 Compact. I think the 2023 Compact... I honestly think you could see... One of my fantasies about the 2023 vehicle, one of my crazy ideas, is it will not have windows. It might have a glass roof, but it will not have a windshield. It will not have a rear windshield. It will not have glass on the sides. I kind of think it might have a rear door. I guess I could see like a glass piece on the roof going from front to back with no glass on the sides and no doors on the sides, and you enter from the rear, which would make the vehicle much more aerodynamic, that you don't have the stuff on the sides. No mirrors, no windows. How about a solar farm in the United Arab? I think solar farms could happen anywhere. I don't think Tesla has a... It's going to be an interesting question. Will Tesla start building solar farms? That's a really interesting idea. But would they build it in the United Arab Emirates? I don't know if the demand for electricity is that high in the UAE, and I think there are already projects like that in countries like that. You know, Elon likes to jump into things where he's adding a lot of value. He's doing something that's big, that's making a big difference. And I don't know if Tesla would make that big of a difference in solar farms. Opsar, thoughts on Tesla hiring a whopping 10,000 people in Texas? That's the beginning. It's not just Tesla. It's Tesla, Boring Company, SpaceX, and Neuralink are all going to be hiring in Texas. I think they're all already hiring in Texas. We're going to see huge volume of hiring there. I think that's going to grow substantially. I think it's going to be 50 or 100,000 people, if not more. And then a lot of support things are going to grow around it. I think Austin is the boom town of the next decade. Boring Company will bore tunnels to the oil platforms for SpaceX. Elon has said that there will be boring tunnels to the offshore launch platforms. Elon has said they're going to do that. So I think that's going to happen. Let's see. After the competition sees Tesla succeed at FSD, how long until they copy their vision-only approach? Michael Corden. So Comma.ai is already using vision-only. It's not just copying the vision-only approach. You have to get the data. You have to succeed. with the vision-only approach, which AI is going to get better over time, so others will succeed at some point. But you also have to get your cost per mile down. Huge issue. Opsar says more glass is more futuristic. No way it will have less. No, the key problem, Opsar, with the glass is if it costs more to make the glass, and if it costs more, the process of putting the glass on the car, the manufacturing of including the glass on the car, if that costs more, if it makes it slower to produce the car, then that's the holdup. So I think the idea of making a platform where the top is glass and there's a back door, so you don't have side doors. This is like big thinking. Maybe I'm crazy, but if you had a rear door to get out of the vehicle, it would be much more aerodynamic, and the assembly process would be a lot simpler. I think you could replace glass with LCD screens, and it would cost less to have LCD screens, and you could look outside by pressing a button. Than it costs to put actual glass on the car. But, you know, Tesla is doing auto glass really its own way. Maybe they're able to manufacture Tesla armor glass cheaply enough that it makes sense. Can I talk about Boca Chica City, Ben asks. Starbase, Texas. I think they renamed it Starbase, Texas. I think Starbase, Texas is going to grow pretty dramatically. Jessica Kirsch was talking about this. I think the ground, the land where that is not ideal for building housing or building other things. So it's going to be interesting to see what it takes to build up communities around Starbase, Texas. Rob Markovich, Warren, when do you expect Fremont to go to front and rear casting structural battery pack and 4680s in all vehicles? I think that Texas and Berlin will scale with 4680 cells first, and once they achieve a certain level of scale and they're producing enough volume, then there will be a 3 to 6 week window when Fremont retools to do front and rear casting structural battery pack and 4680 cells. And don't forget, you know, Panasonic is still making 2170 and 1865 cells. And as I understand it, as long as they're making them and they're useful, they don't want to stop making vehicles that use those cells. So as long as, and maybe the 2170 and 1865 cells will go into Powerwalls instead at some point. Maybe that's the plan. I'm not sure what the plan is. What's your opinion on the competition between Musk's Starlink, Telesat, and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin satellite network? What is it called? I forget what it's called. I think it's called OneWeb. There's no competition for Starlink. Starlink has got first mover advantage. Their launch costs are lower than everybody else's. Their launch costs are going to get lower than everybody else's. I think that Starlink is going to dominate satellite internet. They're going to wipe out anybody else. It's not going to make sense. It's not going to make sense to invest a lot of money to launch your own network when your cost structure is going to be higher than Starlink. I think we're going to see very little of that. I think Starlink is going to become dominant. Justin asks, do I think Tesla will share any projects with Toyota? No. I don't see any prospect of Toyota wanting to cooperate with Tesla. I don't see any prospect of Tesla gaining anything from working with Toyota. I do think that Giga Japan would be done in conjunction with Panasonic. I was talking with some Japanese people on Clubhouse. I speak some Japanese, very limited, but we had this conversation. And the person I was speaking with felt that if the Osaka area government, it's not Hyogo Prefecture, if the Hyogo Prefectural government and the Osaka city government or the relevant local governments want Tesla to be able to open a factory, that might get them past resistance from Japanese industry. The reality is that the Japanese car industry is going to die one way or the other. And the challenge for Japan is, do you want to get in on the new EV revolution or not? And it would make sense for Panasonic to produce batteries Panasonic's based in Osaka. So Panasonic produces batteries in Osaka and Tesla builds a factory in or near Osaka. Kyoto in particular, Osaka is a big city that's worth being around, but Kyoto in particular is a really, really good place that engineers would want. Like, I love Kyoto. Kyoto is a fun city. It's a place it's a absolutely beautiful city that's really worth being at. So I think a Tesla Gigafactory in between Kyoto and Osaka would be absolutely brilliant and would work great with Panasonic. Will the two-motor Cybertruck have the 4680 battery? I believe that all Cybertrucks will use 4680 dimension cells. We're talking about this size cell. Thank you, Fred Jessup. I think it was Fred Jessup who gave me that. Fred Jessup or Fred Hassan, I forget. I'm pretty sure it's Fred Jessup. I believe that all Cybertrucks will use the 4680 size, this format size of cell, but they won't all be high nickel maybe. I think that the tri-motor will use the high nickel cells. I'm not sure if dual motor and single motor will use the high nickel cells. They might use nickel manganese or LFP cells. But yeah, I don't think it makes sense for them to build it without using structural battery pack, and structural battery pack will be designed for 4680. When will Starlink IPO? I think Starlink IPO is probably at least 2 years away, maybe 3. Warren, Tesla could gain more data with Toyota cars. Yes, Tesla could gain more data. I think Tesla already has enough data coming in that they're going to be solving these problems. Toyota would have to install Tesla's camera system and chips on all their cars, all their new cars. You know, Tesla is expanding their fleet enough that I don't think they need anybody else for that. I don't think it adds that much to get that much more data. I think it would be challenging to make that work. And OEMs using prismatic pouch cells do structural battery? I don't think so. I think you need the metal can. I could be wrong, but I don't think prismatic and pouch work for structural pack. I'd be interested in learning more about that, but so far I haven't seen any indication that that would work. I think there's something about the cylindrical cell, the hard metal. It's a thin metal case, but it's a hard metal case, and the way it works as a honeycomb. I don't think you can honeycomb a prismatic, box cell. Biggest competition to Starlink is AST Space Mobile that will make Starlink obsolete global 5G. What are your thoughts? No. I don't know anything about AST Space Mobile, but no, that's not going to happen. Will Tesla actually mine lithium as discussed on Battery Day? Yes, I believe Tesla will be producing lithium from its lithium clays in Nevada. Coming back to Brazil, Alexander says, Volkswagen had a plant there with 22,500 employees. I named Brazil because I think Brazil has the largest economy in South America. It has its own auto industry. I think that Latin America is probably big enough between Brazil and the other countries that a 2023 compact built in Brazil might be effective for that continent. Do you see Elon dipping into shipping, or will they utilize point-to-point Starship to transport raw materials and supplies? I think boring the Bering Strait, a tunnel system carrying cargo, like mentioned on the Boring Company website, would eliminate most shipping. I don't know. That's my theory. When do I forecast the Redlick IPO? Where will be no Redlick IPO? Will Cybertruck be okay on UK streets? I believe that the version of Cybertruck they're going to make is probably going to be too big for a lot of European cities, like in places where the streets are narrow. But anywhere that a bus can go, a Cybertruck can go. You got a lot of big buses in the UK, so Cybertruck would fit anywhere a bus would go. You and Ghali and Rob Maurer should do a combined interview. Ghali and Rob are bigger than me. I love both of them. I actually just watched a Ghali video the other day. I've watched a couple of Rob Maurer videos. This is Hyperchange. For those who don't know, that's Hyperchange on YouTube and Tesla Daily on YouTube. Those are two of my favorite channels. I just watched Ghali do a video with Shelby Church, who is somebody I learned a lot about how to make YouTube videos from. Big fan of Shelby Church, so I'm jealous of Ghali because he gets to drive FSD beta. He gets to ride around with Shelby Church, and she's really cool. So, Alexandra, thank you for your support. Alexandra, very much appreciate it. And listen, hey, the live streams, I don't make that much money on the live streams. I really appreciate the super stickers and super chats. And please support this channel on Patreon. There's a link to Patreon below. Check out the t-shirts, link to the t-shirts below. Check out my book, Fair DUI. There's a link in the description. If you like the way I think, you might like my book. It's different. Nick asks, can the Starlink monthly fees fall to $50? Yes. I don't think they will fall that far that fast, but I do think they ultimately will. Screenstar asks, will Tesla pay a dividend? I think that Tesla will start paying dividends when the Robotaxi network starts churning money. I think the Robotaxi network is going to produce so much profit, and Megapack also might produce so much profit that they literally will not be able to deploy those profits in a useful way. The cash flow will be so much that they won't be able to build enough with it, but they'll be returning that to shareholders in terms of dividends. Elon will be using the dividends to fund Mars. Have you done a video on how the GigaPress will transform profit margins? No. I think that's just built into the whole concept of Tesla manufacturing, and GigaPress is a part of that. I don't know that I know enough about GigaPress to be able to go in depth on that. Elements or Zero. Will my wife be upset if I buy a Cybertruck? My wife is not happy with my Cybertruck order. My daughter is not happy with my Cybertruck order. So your mileage may vary. Golly might be open to streaming with you. He seems to be dating Shelby Church now. I don't think, is he dating Shelby Church? That would make me even more jealous. I don't think they're dating. That would be, do they even live in the same city? I don't think Golly lives in Los Angeles. I thought Shelby lived in Los Angeles and Golly lived somewhere else. Who needs dividend when you get 1,000% capital gains? Well, no, it's just that if you're a company and you have all this cash, you have to do something with it. If you just hold it in an account somewhere, it's not productive. It's not in Elon's nature to just hold cash. He's gonna give it back to shareholders or find something to do with it. Is Starlink affected by weather like Dish TV? No, I believe it is not affected by weather. I mean, anything's affected by weather, but as far as I know, weather will have a minimal effect on Starlink. I'm not sure. I think that's a trivial effect. I mean, I suppose like a really, really hard driving rain. I'm not sure. Is Boring Company valued at $1 billion? Everyone says different valuations. I don't believe there's a formal valuation for Boring Company at the moment. I would say it's worth more than $1 billion, but I'm not sure. Have you modeled a dividend model? No, I have not modeled dividends. I have not thought about that. It's actually a question I wanted to ask Gary Black on Twitter. What would Tesla producing dividends do for Tesla's share price? It's an interesting question because you don't usually see fast-growing companies giving dividends. Corey Bryant, other than Starlink, do you think we'll see any other Elon company IPO? I think that the robo-taxi network could be spun off in an IPO in about 4 years. 4 or 5 years, I guess. So Asbestos Flake, Shelby Church is attractive and she loves Tesla, but I would say more importantly, she's really smart. Watch her videos, listen to her. That's a smart young woman. She's very thoughtful. How to invest in Idra, I don't know. Her body language? What are you talking about? I didn't notice any of that. I watched that video, Jim. I didn't notice any of that. I don't see that as a fit, but what do I know? Neuralink for Gary the Snail. Interesting. I don't think Neuralink's going to work for snails. We've been saying for a long time that Tesla's lead is growing. I feel like, yes, it's becoming extremely obvious. I think dividend makes a difference to some Wall Streeters, Alexandra. It doesn't make a difference to me. But there are people there are investors who want to invest they want their stocks to produce income. And so there's a class of investors who would be attracted to Tesla stock if it was producing dividends. Yeah, no, Shelby does great editing. I've gotten a bunch of great tips from Shelby Church on how I make my videos. Assuming Comma.ai makes autonomy work by 2028, what will Tesla's robotaxi margins be versus competitors? So, Michael, the challenge for other robotaxi makers is not getting autonomy to work. The challenge is getting autonomy to work and getting the cost per mile of operating your vehicle down, including depreciation, and that's a challenge that nobody has an answer to yet. Julio Guerrera, do you think Giga Orlando is a possibility? It has similar elements as Boca Chica. So I would love that because it's close to me. I do think that Orlando and Tampa are an attractive place for people to live. A lot of people want to go to Disney. Being close to Canaveral makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't be shocked. I think their challenge is you just don't see a lot of manufacturing in Florida. Elon clearly gets along with Florida officials. He clearly gets along with Governor DeSantis. He clearly gets along with the Miami mayor. I think Boring Company for Orlando and Tampa is a brilliant idea. And UCF and UF is not very far. University of Florida is not very far from Orlando either. I think there's tremendous potential it would be my dream to see a gigafactory in Florida. I don't think it's going to happen. I would love to see it. Any point in Tesla doing another share split? I do not have it. A lot of people are asking about stock splits. I personally do not find stock splits interesting. I think that they matter for a very small number of people. Elon seems to like them to attract small retail investors, so maybe it'll happen again. I think if Tesla hit 2,000 a share, we'd probably see it. Do I think that shipping container golf simulators would work as a business model? Shipping container golf simulators. That's a little tight. They're 8 feet wide. I think 8 feet wide is a little tight for a golf swing. I don't think that works. I don't think the hurricanes, I mean, look, Texas has hurricanes and they built Giga Austin. I don't think the hurricanes are an issue. It's just, maybe it's a natural skepticism. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff near Orlando that people don't know about, like the International Raceway at Sebring, which I went to recently. There's a lot of great stuff around Orlando. You're getting me excited. Don't get me excited. Giga Orlando would be fantastic, okay? Giga Orlando would be fantastic. I love it. Let's do it. Texas has a lot more cheap land for building, relatively cheap than Florida. Jim, there's a lot of cheap land in Florida. I got to tell you. I bought an acre for $6,000, and I think if you're buying at scale, I think you can buy it even cheaper. There's a lot of cheap land. And I don't think Tesla needs to buy land cheap. Tesla can pay more for the land if they're building something that valuable. Does Boring Company have any proprietary advantage, or does it only serve to leverage Tesla EVs? Yes, Boring Company. I don't know if proprietary is the right word. Boring Company has big advantages. Relentless, the same thing as everything else Elon does, a relentless iterative approach to engineering. I think I don't see anybody else, even though it should be easy to mimic what they're doing, I don't see anybody else doing it. I think the electric approach, the rapid iterative design of boring machines, I think they have some advantages that others could do it. Ed Kane, about the no windows version, maybe with screens, but I think car sickness is too much of an issue. So you put LCD screens up and you can put the outside scenery look like you're looking out the window. You can make that happen if you want to. Giga Hawaii, no. Giga Hawaii is not going to happen. City in Southeast Asia for engineers to be as Bangkok. Yeah, I definitely, I have that hunch that Bangkok, I could see Giga Thailand. I could totally see Giga Thailand. It's sort of, there's a lot of engineering talent in Thailand and Vietnam. A lot of potential there. Tesla and Disney merger, no, but I think Disney could really scale with Boring Company and Robotaxi, making it lower cost to get there. Like they'll bring in more people from the radius. You know, if currently they attract a lot of people from radius of 50 miles, maybe it increases the radius they attract people to 100 miles. How quickly do I think FSD purchase cost will increase this year? Will it be more than $10,000 by 2022? If FSD is delivered working to, you know, the general public, as in you get FSD, I do think the price goes up. I think it goes to $15,000 or $20,000. Make a shirt, Giga Orlando. Oh, I like that. I don't know where you got that icon. That's pretty cool. Elon Land will be in Austin, Disneyland. Yeah. Thank you, Gary, for your super chat. Very much appreciate the support. Factories don't need engineers, just cheap, disciplined, and highly motivated line managers and workers. Vietnam has that, plus historically keeps China in check. If CCP gets out of hand, just expand across the border. If the Chinese Communist Party expands, they can take over Vietnam in a weekend. Sorry. But I kind of agree with you. I think they still need engineers. I think they're constantly improving their factories. But, you know, the line managers and workers also want someplace fun to go. Do I think Elon will build the Model 2 compact car? Don't call it the Model 2. With a single casting and structural battery pack. What kind of financial and battery efficiency benefits will that provide? So yes, I think that the 2023 Tesla Compact will have a single casting, structural battery pack, 48-volt wiring, and other innovations that we haven't thought of. I mean, I think the no windows idea is big, minimizing the amount of glass, which will make structural building easier. It'll make it easier to build the structure of the vehicle. I think the process of installing windows in the vehicle, building the structure to accommodate windows, I think all of that slows production down and increase production costs. I think we're going to see things like that. So Joanne asks, is it not inevitable that Tesla will pay a dividend? Yes, I think that Tesla will pay a dividend. I talked about that just a little earlier. Could SpaceX be valued more than Tesla if they do asteroid mining? No, I made a video. Check my channel for mining. I don't think that space mining makes sense for getting materials for use on Earth. I think mining in space will make sense for the moon or Mars or Jeff Bezos, O'Neill colonies. I have a feeling that there'll be enough mining on Mars that it won't make sense to mine asteroids for the same things that you can get on Mars. I have not been convinced yet that asteroid mining makes sense. Jim Whitehead, to save money, what if most windows did not roll down in the Cybertruck? Transparent aluminum like in Star Trek. I honestly, look, I don't think he's going to make windows that don't roll down. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think that we're going to see a future car that doesn't bother to have windows at all. Do I think there will be another Giga China location? I definitely think there's possibility for another Giga China. I don't know China's geography enough well to say. I think that a place like a large city in the internal part of the country whose name I can't think of, Chongqing. I think Chongqing would have potential. There's like 50 cities of over 1 million people in China. Maybe it's more than that. There's some really big cities in China. So I definitely could see it happening somewhere else in China. Dave asks, if LCD screens had all the advantages that you've mentioned, why has the aviation industry not used them for those same reasons? Because they're not innovative. So Ben, I don't think Model 2 needs a name. I think it's going to be more than one model. I think the Tesla 2023 Compact is going to be a platform upon which multiple models will be built. There will be an SUV in the United States. There will be a hatchback in Europe. There will be a van version. There's a lot of potential to build different formats. I think those factories are going to spit out 4 million vehicles a year, and they don't need to all be the same vehicle. Do you get recognized in public for your YouTube channel? No. I'm not that famous. I don't want to say never, but rarely. I don't want to say it's never happened, but it's pretty rare. They need to name their new models 2U4 so they have Too Sexy for You. Yeah, maybe. I think the Tesla Compact will be revealed in 2022. It could be this year. I think Elon has said they want to focus on ramping up Berlin and Texas and get them going. And then that's when they devote their efforts to the next generation Gigafactory, which I made a video about the next generation Gigafactory. Check my channel. I think that's a great video. I think more people should watch that video to see where it's going. Chengdu, okay. Take over Vietnam is no time. Sorry, I don't think so. Vietnamese despise the Chinese and gave the Chinese a physical victory. In today's world, that would spark Tibet, Xinjiang, and possibly in Mongolia. I just think that if China decides to go rogue, no one's going to be able to stop them. They're going to have, the United States is going to falter. China's going to already has the biggest economy in the world. If they want, I don't think China's going to be expansionist like that. I don't think they're going to be aggressive militarily and expand. I think they're fond of soft power. I think they've learned they don't need to use a military to get what they want. What companies will buy Tesla Semi? A lot of companies are buying Tesla Semi. I'm not paying attention to the likes. I don't worry about it. The likes on your video went from 209 to 127 suddenly. That's probably a YouTube glitch. Don't worry about that. What are we going to do with these upgraded monkeys, Warren? Model AF, I've seen that before. The name of the $25,000 vehicle might be related to the content it was. I think each continent is going to have its own models. So you're going to have an SUV model in the US. China's probably going to have an SUV model, but the big model in Europe's going to be a hatchback. I think there's going to be one that's really, really designed for the optimal robo-taxi that will run as a robo-taxi. A lot of potential there. Tesla hits 100,000 a share by 2030. Hopefully, I'd be happy with 20, but I think 40. Is it possible for FSD to be hacked, allowing hackers to hijack cars? I saw this in the movie Upgrade, Jeremy. I believe that Elon and Andre have hack a Tesla day where they invite hackers to come in and try to hack the cars, and if somebody succeeds, they give them the car. So I definitely think that if you're looking for a company that that's looking ahead to make sure they don't get hacked, or that they're prepared for the hacking potential, you're not going to find a company more ready than Tesla because it's headed by 2 hackers. Is the older population in Florida promoting FSD to assure better mobility in advancing years? I don't know if it's the older population or it's just relatively good government. So I believe in the theory that Elon Musk's companies are made for Mars beyond SpaceX. It certainly fits that Tesla vehicles will operate on Mars without needing oxygen because they're battery electric vehicles, that solar will be useful on Mars, that boring tunnels on Mars will be useful. Maybe Neuralink will be useful in some way that I haven't anticipated yet. Will the 4680 charge faster than current batteries, or will it depend on next generation charger tech? I believe that the 4680 will charge a little faster than current batteries, but it's not a huge difference. It's like 10% faster, not 50% faster. GM has announced 30 models by 2030. Do you believe it? I think you mean EVs, and no. I don't think that GM will be able to produce EVs in volume at low cost. I don't think any other OEM will be able to produce EVs in volume at reasonable cost. They're all done. Oh, Amit says, what about Russia or China stopping the Hyperloop shipping for their political gain? It's not Hyperloop, it's Hyperloop and shipping. China wants this. China has been pushing to do boring bearing. They love this idea. I think Elon's motto, we're going to build a tunnel and we're going to make China pay for it. Will Neuralink create sentient high IQ primates that we can communicate with? Maybe. Maybe. I think that's possible. I don't think that's a really high priority. My question is, if you put a Neuralink chip in your dog and you could understand what your dog is thinking and your dog could communicate with you, would you want to know what your dog is thinking? Are you sure you'd want to hear your dog saying, can I have a treat? Can I have a treat? Can I have a treat? In your head, constantly. That would be scary. If your dog knew he could tell you he wanted a treat all the time, he might tell you he wanted a treat all the time. Will Tesla ever not be battery constrained? Great question, Night Trekker. I think 2030, 2035, I think at some point, probably around 2030, I think they will have produced enough batteries that the constraint will be relatively small, relatively less difficult. Michael says, why doesn't George Hotz like Elon? I don't think that's true. I think George Hotz does like Elon. Do I have a price target on NIO compared to Tesla 2023? I do not really do price targets. I don't really do price targets for Tesla. I just forecast where I think the company might go and come up with some numbers of what that might mean for share price. But I don't estimate NIO's valuation at all. I think NIO has a lot of potential. I hate their battery swap idea, but I think overall they seem to be doing well as a company. Whether it's genuine, I can't tell. They produced 100,000 vehicles. You can't knock that. Can you look into FSD functioning on the East Coast? Seems like it's only being tested on the West Coast. I believe that is incorrect. I think Lex Friedman actually drove it in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. India has blocked traffic. How does Tesla solve that? The Boring Company solves blocked traffic, not Tesla. The cheap way you get solar to work better on Mars is by putting cells in the middle of a parabolic reflector. Yeah, that could... I definitely think there's potential to make solar work better on Mars. But I do a video on the difference between about batteries and difference between nickel, lithium, etc. Francois. So Francois, the channel I recommend overall is The Limiting Factor, but that's a good idea for a video about batteries. I'll think about that. That's a good idea for a video. It would be about nickel and iron. I think I have done videos about that before, but maybe I could do better. No, Mark, I don't think 4680 will be 66% faster charging. I think you're overinterpreting something that they said at Battery Day. I think it charges about 10 or 20% faster. I could be wrong. Maybe you're right, Mark. I don't think it's that much of an improvement in charging. I think it's a 10 or 20% improvement. But now I have to go back and watch Battery Day and see. You just turn off the Bluetooth connection to your dog that keeps bugging you for a treat. We'll see. I don't know. Biden mentioned hydrogen during his last speech on infrastructure funding. Do you think it's still a dream past 2030? Hydrogen is real. Using hydrogen for valuable purposes is unlikely. Tim Crowley, do I see Boston Dynamics as a potential acquisition target for Tesla? No. I don't want to say a zero probability. That seems like a very low probability. Harry Chu, Ford is shooting for 50,000 Mach-E's in 2021. How is that competition? I don't think Ford can deliver Mach-E's for less than it cost them to make them. The more they make, the more money they lose. That's a problem. I would like to hear from someone at Ford how much it's cost them to make the Mach-E. It felt like a $100,000 car to me, and they're selling it for $50,000. I'm pretty sure they're spending a lot of money building that car. Don't you think the future of energy is nuclear? Instead of wind, it's cheap. It produces too little to be effective. So, Diedrich, thank you for the question, and thank you for your support. No. Nuclear's problem primarily is the high capital cost of building a nuclear power plant and the high political resistance to nuclear. I think that there are potential applications for nuclear energy that would make sense. Unfortunately, there's tremendous political resistance, and the cost advantage is not great compared to wind. I think wind and solar can produce at great scale. So I think there's room for nuclear, and I would support nuclear, but I don't think it's going to happen. Be good to your Earth. Why battery constrained beyond 2024? I think that batteries are still the fundamental constraint. I think they're gaining, but I think it's still a challenge. Maybe it's quicker than 2030, though. You might be right. Do I think Elon has any interest in aerial delivery drones to compete with Amazon? No. I do think that it was an interesting analysis I just did. Maybe I should make a video about this. So I was thinking that robotaxis, that vehicle robotaxis, would be a more sensible way to deliver than drones. And then I saw an analysis that the cost of delivery, the electricity usage of a drone delivering, let's say, a 5-kilogram package is surprisingly low. And I realized why. The robotaxi weighs like 2,000 plus pounds, 3,000 pounds, 1,000 kilograms to 1,500 kilograms. The drone weighs like 5 kilograms. So even though it's flying, the cost of moving, so like flying is more expensive per kilogram moved, but because the vehicle weighs so little, the cost, thank you, Marvin, for joining the channel. Because the vehicle weighs so little, the drone weighs so little, the cost per mile of delivery, let's say you wanted to do a 5-mile each way delivery, 5 miles delivery and 5-mile return, the cost of that delivery with a drone might be as little as 10 cents in electricity. I don't know what the depreciation is on the drone and all that, but I think it's going to be hard for vehicles to match drones for delivering like restaurant food. The drones will also deliver them faster. So Kevin, yes, I do foresee multiple models being built off the platform, and each region will have its own custom models. That's why they're having a China design studio and a Berlin design studio, is that China will design the models that go on its platform. Berlin will design the models that go on its platform. A lot of people asking about Cyberlander. I think the Cyberlander is a nice idea, but I have a feeling it's not really going to work, or it's not. You're going to have no room for anything else in the bed of your truck if you do that. I honestly think that doing a tent off your Cybertruck makes more sense. Takes up a lot less space in the truck, weighs a lot less. Other companies are going to be hurting even more when Tesla lowers prices. Yes. First legacy OEM that merges or goes bankrupt. Mazda, Subaru, Land Rover. Good question. I don't know enough about the OEM space to say that. I think that Volkswagen and Volkswagen has a lot of debt. Volkswagen has a lot of debt, but it's going to be back. I think a lot of these companies are going to be backed up by their governments first. Cars that deploy drones. I don't think the cars deploying drones make sense. I think it's so cheap to fly a drone from point A to point B. Matt, I'm not sure what you're asking about, Paul. Yes, it was on Paul Barron's podcast. That's right. Will I do a video on the cost of raw materials in a car? That's a limit to how low a cost can go. I don't think I'm going to do a video about that. It's a good idea, but I don't know if I know enough about that. I think just generally, if you get the weight of the vehicle down, you're reducing the materials and you're reducing the cost. It's really a lot more about volume of production and reducing the number of steps in the process to make it. I don't know. It's going to be a while before they get to getting the cost of a car down close to the cost of raw materials. Albert says at full capacity, all 4 gigafactories, what's going to be the maximum production, say, in 2023? So I think that Tesla's going to reach close to 1 million vehicles in 2022. I think they're going to exceed 2 million vehicles in... Sorry, I think they're going to reach 1 million vehicles in 2021, or come close to it. I think they're going to exceed 2 million vehicles in 2022, produce more than 2 million vehicles in 2022. And I think in 2023, we may see Tesla hit 5 million vehicles, or even 6. I think that Berlin and Austin will each produce 2 million vehicles when fully ramped, maybe more in Texas. And then Fremont and Shanghai between them will reach 1.5 million vehicles. So I think you could be pushing 6 million vehicles by the end of 2023 if they have the batteries. And I think they will have the batteries. Do you own a Tesla vehicle? Did you try FSD? I do not own a Tesla vehicle. My neighbor has his second Tesla. I've driven both of his Teslas. I've driven FSD on the previous one and autopilot on the new one. It doesn't seem like it is anywhere near Waymo's level of autonomy. Tesla FSD works everywhere. Waymo's autonomy works in like a few streets in Chandler, Arizona. Not even close comparison. FSD is much, much closer to full autonomy than Waymo. Waymo's a joke. Does Ford and GM's board of directors subscribe to your channel? They should. No, I'm pretty sure that major OEMs, boards of directors and CEOs are not watching this channel. Are there people from those companies who watch channels like mine? Yeah, probably. I think the question about which OEM fails first, somebody's mentioned Volkswagen, is Who does Tesla most directly compete with? Who do they take sales from the most? And I don't know a good answer to that question. I think BMW is in trouble. If I don't know. Do I think Elon will collaborate with his brother in vertical farming and smart cities in Mars? I don't know if I don't think that Kimball is doing, quote, vertical farming. He's doing square roots, which is like container farming. I haven't seen him do vertical farming. I do think we're going to see more work in that area, and Kimball might be behind it, but I haven't seen any hint that Elon's getting into that. At 1.8 million on Cybertruck list, what year can it be delivered? I think Cybertruck is going to start deliveries at the end of this year. I think they're in a trickle. I think they're going to start ramping in 2022. I think by the end of 2022, they should be delivering a pace of 250,000 or more a year. Maybe a 500,000 a year pace. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how they scale that. Rob Markovich, Warren, has it been confirmed that the Shanghai expansion is for the 25K vehicle? 1, no. 2, there's no clear 25K vehicle. I'm not sure what you're referring to. If you're referring to the vehicle that Tesla talked about on Battery Day, that is not what's going on in the Shanghai expansion. Elon said to Sandy Munro they're going to do that after they scale Berlin and Texas. Do I think that? And I heard a rumor that's going to be for a semi in China, which makes a lot more sense to me. Do I think the Austin Model Y will have to be plaid because it's so much better than Fremont? Yes. I think that the initial Model Ys rolling out of Berlin and Texas will have to be high-performance models, priced high, because they're going to be so much better than the vehicles coming out of Fremont and Shanghai that they can't, if they sell them at the same price, they won't be able to sell the other ones. What impact will Tesla have on the global economy in 2030 if your bull case happens, jobs, etc.? If Tesla expands robotaxis that fast, then the cost of transportation is going to plummet, and the world economy will be juiced from the massive efficiency increase from lower transportation costs, and that impact on growth will create massive job creation. Does Cybertruck price increase once production starts? It is surprising to me that Tesla has not increased the price of Cybertruck on the order page. So I'm guessing no, it's not going to increase. If they were going to increase the price of Cybertruck, they would have already done it. Wilhelm Press, what's your input on inflation, Warren? So it's interesting. People that I respect think that we're actually facing deflation because of technological improvements. I think inflation is going to come hard and fast. Kathy Wood just said that inflation was like 1%, in the last month, 12% rate a year. So I think with the amount of money the government is printing, I think we have a real risk of hyperinflation. Hey, Will Bradbury's on the chat. Thank you for joining Boring Revolution. I watched your video. Big fan. If you're interested in Boring Company, watch the channel Boring Revolution. He's in the chat right now. Huge fan. We talk about stuff about Boring Company together to get I asked him for advice. He doesn't really need my advice, but Jim Whitehead, does Waymo's CEO quitting indicate the rats are leaving a sinking ship? It's not a good sign, Jim. It's not a good sign. Elon will clone dinosaurs so they will eat Volkswagen. I like it. Do I think they might expand to Mexico and South America? I think that Brazil makes sense. I mentioned that before. Is it true Model 3 will get its steering yoke? I think that performance models of any Tesla vehicle could get the steering yoke. That would make sense to me, that the performance Model 3, I think there might be plaid versions of Y and 3 eventually, and they might get it, yes. I don't know whether they're going to extend tri-motor to Y and 3, though. Owned a BMW, never again. How do you think that will affect stock prices? Inflation? I don't know enough to say how inflation will affect stock prices. I think in a bad economic situation, the money tends to flow to companies that are likely to survive the economic problems. And I think Tesla will do better in an inflationary environment than other companies that are similar. But if inflation goes up bad enough, that can affect all companies in a very bad way. Dom is saying that Waymo might be restricted in Mesa, Arizona, but it does not need any human interaction. Dom, you don't know that there's not a human operator. We know that Waymo has remote operators who are watching what's happening through their cameras. We don't know how much they're intervening. There's a reason they haven't scaled. They've been in Mesa, Arizona for a long time, and they haven't scaled to produce more Waymos in more cities. Why not? Because the approach doesn't scale because they need the human operators to make sure it's working. That's my opinion. I don't know what's going on inside Waymo, but you tell me why they haven't scaled. They haven't scaled for a reason. Thoughts on government breaking up Tesla? I think there's a significant risk of government breaking up Tesla, but they haven't broken up Google. They haven't broken up Facebook. They haven't broken up Amazon. Is there a chance that they could break up Tesla? Yes. I think it's more likely that Elon at some point decides to break up Tesla himself, that Tesla Europe spins off as its own company, that Tesla China spins off as its own company, that Tesla Robotaxi spins off as its own company. I could see spin-offs rather than, break it up yourself before they break it up. Any idea when final Cybertruck design will be revealed? No. Soon, but no. Why do people sell equities if they think inflation is coming? Their equities should go up with inflation, their cash should go down. Am I missing something? I think if inflation goes up enough, it threatens certain companies' revenue models and profit models. Inflation, when it's bad, can make it hard for companies to do business because you're buying something from this supplier, and by the time it gets to you, it's worth more. And there's a lot of challenges in an inflationary environment making the economy work, making supply chains work. Making supply chains work is a difficult problem in an inflationary environment, especially if inflation spikes. Will competing auto companies try to steal Tesla's battery deals with CATL and others? They might try, but they're not going to succeed. If you are a supplier, Tesla's the big dog. Why would you give more batteries to a smaller company that's going to demand less? I think that's a huge challenge for other companies. Tesla is giving favorable terms in its deals with these companies. Francois, thank you so much for your support. Bonjour, merci beaucoup. J'aime la France, j'aime le Canada, j'aime Québec. Are you expecting SNX refresh production to be more than 100,000 units with 2 shifts? Yes. I think that in some of my models, I think SNX will reach 150,000 vehicles a year. It's hard to predict that. I think as the robotaxi scenario becomes live, there's going to be less demand for buying cars overall. What would Tesla spin-offs do to the stock? I think they would boost the stock. So what people think that, in other words, when they spin off the robotaxi network, let's say as a separate IPO, Tesla shareholders would get shares in the IPO'd company. So you would get shares equivalent to your valuation, whatever your holding is, in the IPO'd company. So generally speaking, the total valuation tends to go up when you spin companies off. Costa, why does Tesla Energy not own a utility company to sell electricity? I definitely think it makes sense for Tesla to start producing electricity and develop a company that produces electricity from solar and perhaps wind and does megapack farms. I just think it's not something that they think is critical to do yet. I think it could happen. I think that's a good business model potentially. It's a good idea to spend $100 now on a Cybertruck to protect your autopilot price. That's why I have 2 Cybertruck orders. I have a Cybertruck order at a $7,000 FSD price and a second one at the $8,000 FSD price. I ordered the second one right before the price went up to $10,000. Is FSD version 9 or 10 or 11 equal Robotaxi? So version 9 may be enough for Robotaxi. I think there will probably be a version 10 that will be Dojo enhanced. But I think version 9 may be enough. We're going to see. We're going to see very soon. Chances we see the $25,000 car design in 2021, I think it's small. I don't think that's a priority. I think there's other things that are priorities before that. What do I think Tesla price earnings ratio will be end of 2021? That's a really hard thing to predict, Mark. It really depends on what the share price is. It's really more like what's the share price going to be and what profits are they going to make. That's too big. Thank you, Kevin, for your kind words. I've heard stories that Tesla's cost of production of a car in China is much lower than in Fremont. And I don't know if it's lower than the cost is going to be in Berlin and Texas, but their cost of producing the Model 3, let's say in China, the Model Y has gotten really low. Oh, good question here from Insight. Thank you for your support as well. Do you know if Tesla is innovating in tire development, tires that last and drive even if punctured? So Elon was just asked about this question. I forget where he was asked this question. He gets asked this question a lot about tires. And Elon, the tire industry's been working on tires for a long time, and they've made a lot of progress. And Elon was talking about the different things you have to optimize for, and now try to optimize for all these things and not use air. So I think that there's a lot of talk about coming up with better tires, but the reality is that the current state of tires is actually very, very good. I think people underestimate the quality of current generation of tires. I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast where he was talking about this. So when you do high performance tires, they're more vulnerable to potholes or whatever. If you do, I think the robo-taxis are not going to use high performance tires, and they're going to last longer. I have 80,000 mile tires on my Volkswagen Passat. I think it's likely that they're going to achieve 100,000 mile life on tires with air in them that are very durable. I think that's going to be a priority for the robo-taxi, and I don't think Tesla will need to develop their own tires. I think they will work with suppliers who already do a good job. Do I think we'll see a $35,000 Model 3 again before the actual $25K Tesla small vehicle? I think there's a chance that made in China Model 3s will sell in a $25,000 at a $35,000 price point. They're not already. Have I seen the company Arrival? It's interesting, but I'm not sure that the small factory, distributed factory model makes sense. It's a nice idea. Can you get it to, let's see if they can do it. Why would a company like Lyft partner with Hyundai instead of Tesla? Do you think Tesla doesn't want to work with other taxi networks? That is roughly correct. That is what I think. I think that Tesla doesn't need Uber and Lyft. Tesla is going to, if you watch earlier in this video, I think it's in the beginning of the video, there was this clip from the Boring Company, and the Boring Company Las Vegas tunnel. I think it's very clear that Tesla has Uber and Lyft in its sights, and Tesla will basically destroy Uber and Lyft. They're going to be gone. And full disclosure, I have bought puts, long puts in Uber and Lyft. I make money if they fail. So not a lot of money. It's not a big investment, but. Mike Smith asks, Warren, did you get into any XRP, which is also known as Ripple, or other cryptocurrency? I'm doing a Clubhouse Tuesday to discuss cryptocurrencies. I'm interested in them. I actually find the user experience of trying to buy cryptocurrencies is hard. So I haven't bothered to pursue other cryptocurrencies. I'm interested in Cardano. I'm interested in Polkadot. I'm interested in Ripple, EOS, Doge. I have thought about buying small amounts of any of those cryptocurrencies, but I haven't really bothered. Salvador asked, do I think Tesla will get into smart homes? I have a video, what if Tesla made homes? Check my channel, Salvador. I have a video in my channel where I talk about Tesla building homes. How do I expect Tesla to roll out FSD beta and the subscription? So I think beta is going to roll out to 10,000 people when version 9 comes out. I don't know what the subscription plan is. My hunch is that they will offer a short-term subscription at a low price, like $99 a month for 1 or 2 months. And then the long-term subscription price will be high, like $3.99 a month, $4.99 a month. But the short-term subscription will persuade. Elon has said that the subscription will be, that buying it will be cheaper than subscribing. So if he means it, I think the subscription will be, I think, like I said, I think an introductory subscription at a low price. Insight says, thank you for your support. I'm about to receive my new Tesla 3 in May. Should I wait for the tax credit? Also, should I buy FSD now or just subscribe in the future? You should definitely buy FSD now. I can't answer you about the tax credit. If you're going to receive it in May, I just don't know the answer to your question. You'd be better off asking your congressman than asking me. If it's a tax credit, then it shouldn't matter when you buy it this year. If it is a rebate at the dealership, like a live rebate at the dealership, then maybe you only get it if you buy it after it's live. I don't know the answer to that question. They have talked about making it a rebate from the dealership. If it's a tax credit, then it doesn't matter when you buy it. I think. How do you expect Tesla will price FSD for the semi versus personal versus robotaxi use? I think FSD for semi will cost more. I don't know enough to have an opinion about how they would do it personal versus robotaxi. I don't think they're going to differentiate them, but I could be wrong. Yeah, Mark, I agree with you. I think FSD goes to $20,000 when it goes live. Will Tesla make a 1-ton dually Cybertruck? I think, Dan, there's an interesting question of whether they make a tougher Cybertruck or whether they make a scaled down semi for, you know, the 1-ton truck market. What do I think about reserving Cybertrucks as FSD option calls? It's not a bad idea. I mean, I ordered a second one, but there's people who've ordered like 10 or 130 or something like that. Should Canadians get the 93-mile Tesla 3? I actually haven't paid much attention to that. Elon Musk's firm Neuralink has the tech to build a real Jurassic Park. That's an interesting idea. Which Cybertruck did I pre-order? I pre-ordered 2 dual motor Cybertrucks with FSD on both. Why can't Uber and Lyft pivot their business models to survive? Because number one, they don't have autonomy, and number two, their cost per mile structure is too high. They don't have the manufacturing to produce vehicles that will deliver passengers at low cost per mile. It doesn't work. I don't know how they could pivot from that. FSD purchases Loftus vehicle is totaled though, right? I don't know the answer to that question. But I think if you lost it, then your insurance would cover it. All right, we're approaching 2 hours. I'm gonna wait a minute to see if there's any other questions. I probably missed some questions. Let me just look back and see if I missed anything. Sorry, I'm just checking back to see if I missed any questions. There were a lot of questions earlier, but you have questions now. So Carl, yeah, I think Ford Super Duty, I think something like a downscaled semi probably makes more sense than Cybertruck, but I'm not sure. What do you expect the actual range of the different Cybertrucks will be versus advertised ranges now? I think that the tri-motor will be right around 500 miles. I think the dual motor will be 320, and the single motor will be 260, maybe. I think the single motor might hit 300, and the dual motor might be 350 or 400. FSD on semi. Wouldn't semis drive very differently from regular models in Cybertruck? I don't think so. I think they have some different use cases, but generally speaking, they'll drive the same. I think it would be a good business to buy a Tesla with FSD now before the Robotaxi initiative starts. Is it too early? It's not too late. I do think it's a good idea to buy a Tesla before they stop selling cars, if you want one. Dojo revenue. I don't know the answer to how much. ARK Invest has a video where they talk about AI training revenue. I think they think it's a $100 billion plus market. So there's a lot of potential there. Is Cyberlander just a thing for those that have more money than they know what to do with for camping? I think Cyberlander is an idea right now. It's not even built. Thank you, Rebecca, for your kind words. What do I think about a supercharger with an automatic arm so cars could swap during night automatically with FSD? I think that there will be some kind of automatic robotic supercharging that will happen. But, you know, if you need a human to charge the vehicle, to plug it in, you know, one human can probably plug in and unplug 2 vehicles a minute, over 100 an hour. I don't think that's a big challenge. Rivian lawsuit. I don't know about the Rivian lawsuit. I don't even know there was one. How do you see if you ordered FSD on Cybertruck? I don't remember. You go to your Tesla account on Tesla.com. Is semi good for Tesla's revenue compared to other models which take less batteries per cost? I believe that semi's revenue per battery kilowatt hour is lower. So I don't know if Tesla has a plan for how they're going to make more money on semi, or it's a market they need to go. Glenn asks, where in Florida are you going for your cabin? And my cabin is going to be near Sebring, Florida. All right. So I want to thank Carl and Mike and Mark and Jim for moderating. I want to thank channel members like Mark Potocznik and Trent Thomas and Ben Pena for coming. Thank everyone for watching. We're about 2 hours now, and I'm not seeing new questions, so I want to thank everyone for watching. Please support the channel on Patreon. Check out the t-shirts. It's Elon time. That's my actual artwork. I actually did that. I got verified by my daughter. Check out the book, Fair DUI. It's very useful if you're going to get pulled over. It will become useless when robotaxis take over the world. Support this channel on Patreon. and whatever else. And check out my channels. Check out my other videos. A lot of questions relate to videos I've already made. Scroll through my channel and look for other videos I've made. You'll find something. Or search my channel, look for videos I've made. Thanks, everyone.